Hello, dear learners. Our discipline is Bridge Literature and the Problems of Translation. Today, our lecture is devoted to the role of cultural context in the literary translation. The plan of our lecture is following: understanding the cultural context, challenges in cross-cultural translation, case studies in cultural adaptation, strategies for culturally sensitive translation, and the role of globalization in the translation. Cultural context plays a crucial role in a literary translation. Translators must consider historical, social, and political backgrounds to accurately convey meaning. Understanding cultural context means being aware of the values, beliefs, behaviors, traditions, language, and social norms that shape how people from a particular culture see the world, communicate, and behave. It's crucial in literature, communication, business, education, and many other areas. The cultural context refers to the setting or environment influenced by the culture in which communication or events take place. It includes social norms and traditions, religious or spiritual beliefs, language and communication styles, historical backgrounds, family and social structure, and education and worldview. Certain concepts, idioms, traditions don't have direct equivalents in other languages. Translators must find creative way to bridge these gaps. Cross-cultural translation goes way beyond swapping words between languages. It's about translating meaning, tone, and cultural nuances. Untranslatable words, some words or phrases just don't exist in other languages. What to do in this case? For instance, in German, the Schadenfreude, the pleasure from someone else's misfortune, has no direct English equivalent. And the idioms and the slangs like kick the bucket or spill the tea has no direct translation in English too. And humor, politeness, gender roles, or authority may be interpreted very differently. For example, sarcasm may come off as a rudeness in some cultures where direct communication is a norm. Examples of successful and problematic translations illustrate the impact of cultural context. Adapting humor, references, and historical settings is key to effective translation. Understanding the target language, understanding the target audience, target culture, cultural norms, values, working with cultural consultants and using footnotes can aid the preserving meaning. Poetry relies on rhythm, rhyme, and figurative language, making translations especially challenging. The poetry translation, this is where language meets art and things get really nuanced. Translating poetry isn't just about switching out words, it's about capturing the soul of the original in a whole new cultural and linguistic space. The key challenges of the poetry translation involved the following. First, preserving meaning versus preserving forms. Meaning, the translator must convey the themes, symbols, and emotions the poets intended. The form, many poems rely on a matter, rhyme, and structure, things that often don't transfer neatly into another language. Example, perfectly rhymed sonnet in Italian may sound flat or awkward in English if you try to keep the rhyme. The second is the cultural references and symbolism. Many poems are soaked in local traditions, myths, or historical events that may not make sense to readers from another culture. For instance, a cherry blossom in Japanese poetry carries deep cultural symbolism that may get lost in the translated literally. The next feature is the sound and the musicality. Poetry often depends on rhythm, alliteration, assonance, or even the way words feel in the mouth. Translating that sonic beauty is incredibly hard, especially when the original language has more vowel consonant sounds. The flow or pacing feels unnatural in the target language. The next feature is a wordplay, puns, and double meanings. Many poets love ambiguity, puns, or layered meaning. For instance, a line might have two possible readings in the original, but only one survives in the translation. Translators often add footnotes or reinterpret the line in a clever way to keep the spirit intact. The next feature is the emotional tone and the voice. A poem can be biting, playful, reverent, or mournful, and a poor translation can totally miss the mood. Even the register matters. A single word change can shift how the poem feels. The following feature is the translator as a co-author. The translator becomes a kind of creative partner, making interpretive choices at every turn. Different translations of the same poem can feel like entirely different works, which is both the magic and the challenge of poetry translation. Real example: The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. In some translations, I took the ones less traveled by is interpreted as rebellious. In other, it's rendered more neutral, just a different path, not better or worse. This changed the whole interpretation of the poem. Talking about a figurative language and the symbolism during the translation, the metaphors, for instance, similes, symbolism, often require adaptation to be meaningful in another languages. Literal versus creative translation, balancing faithfulness to the original with artistic expressions. The case studies of translated poetry includes the analyzing the famous translated poems, highlights the difficulties and the strategies in preserving the poetic beauty. Case study, for instance, is a successful literary translation. Examining well-translated poetry can provide insight into effective strategies for the literary translation. Case studies are a fantastic way to see how translators have successfully navigated the complex world of literary imagery translation. Here are the few notable examples of literary works that have been beautifully and successfully translated with a look at that made them work so well. For instance, Homer's The Odyssey. Original language, ancient Greek. The translator, Emily Wilson. And why it succeeded? The first reason is the first woman to translate the Odyssey into the English. Emily Wilson was the first woman translator who translated the Odyssey into the English, offering a fresh and inclusive perspective. Wilson used modern, accessible language while keeping the poetic form, iambic pentameter. She re-examined certain gendered translations. For example, calling enslaved women maids versus girls, for greater clarity and accuracy. The role of the globalization in the translation is very important. With increased global communication, translators face the challenge of balancing localization with universal appeal. Globalization is the process of increased interconnectedness and interdependence among countries, cultures, and economies through the exchange of goods, services, ideas, technology, and people around the world. Increased demand for the translated words. Globalization has connected readers from all over the world. Publishers and readers now seek out voices from the different cultures, countries, especially non-Western and previously marginalized cultures. The result: more translations, more diverse authors reaching global audiences. We have come to the end of our lecture. Thank you for your attention.